Hey guys, welcome to today's question and answer video. No trading for me today. I've had to take the dogs to get groomed this morning and then take my wife to an appointment, and now I'm just waiting for everybody to get finished up. So we're going to do some questions and answers here. Quite a pile up of them. We'll get to as many of them as I can today. Anything that gets missed today, I'll try and get to next time. This is a recent question, just from the last day, but it is a question I get quite a bit from various people. This one's from Iro Melodius. Good question. What are your thoughts on prop firms for beginner traders? I don't know enough about the prop trader experience. My gut doesn't like it. Would I be interested in it? No. If I was starting out and I didn't have any money, would I be interested in it? Knowing where I know now, coming from where I am now, no, not right away anyway. Myself, I don't have any desire to trade other people's money. I'm just happy to trade my own, and that way anything I make is all mine, and any mistakes are on me too. So, I don't know enough about it. I don't know enough to say who's good, who's not. Seems as though a lot of them have their own education, which may or may not be good. But, you have to pay a fee for that, and then you have to pay a fee to take sort of a test, and then every time, just hearing from people's experiences that email me, they wind up, they make it through round one, then they make it through round two, and then they fail and they have to pay the fee over again. And to me, it just kind of seems like it might be kind of an endless churning thing. Again, I don't know enough about it really, but it certainly wouldn't be for me. I have to excuse me, my left eye is messed up for some reason, so I had to take my contacts out, and then I fell asleep with my glasses on and broke them. So this is an old pair that doesn't even really fit right or anything, but that's life, right? You got to roll with it. Question from Johan Kasu. Great question. What were your biggest growing pains, or my biggest growing pains, as when I started trading? I would say my biggest growing pain was figuring out how this works and realizing that I couldn't just go and buy a system in a box and plug it in and have it turn into a money machine. That was probably my biggest thing. I went through a lot of bouncing back and forth between systems and stuff like that for a long time. And once I did finally start to figure out how the market actually worked, really the biggest thing was getting the position size and the risk profile right. I was always, except for at the very start, I was good for not risking too much, but getting my risk reward. I had this thing where I was very set on your risk must be way smaller than your reward, and then I would just leave trades go, and I just have mostly losers, which is going to happen when you do that. And so that was a big struggle. And once I finally sort of got into a bit of a day trading style that I liked, over trading for sure, trading all day and having those days where you're up and then you give money back and then you wind up negative after being positive. Those were probably my biggest problems. So pretty much everything, if you put it that way. But main thing would be like wasting a lot of time and not starting out on the right path. And then once I got something worked out that I could do, over trading. Griminator, nice to hear from you, Griminator. Do I ever use the initial balance in my trading? Not really. Is it kind of in the side of my brain, like the opening range? For a while there, I would look at the first 5 minute opening range, high and low, and I'd sort of keep that in my head, and I would use that for targets sometimes, and that is something you can do also. It's still sort of in there, but it's not, I don't look at it as much as I look at other levels like previous days, highs, lows, opens and closes and stuff like that. People do use that though, for sure. Another thing I get a lot of questions about is, why don't I take partial winners, or why don't I move my stop into profit? Now, the moving the stop into profit, that's something that, I'm okay with. And I have done that occasionally. I don't know if I've really done that in the last year or two, or as long as I've been recording my trading anyway. I used to do that. So I used to always lock in one tick because I figured it paid my commission. Then I eventually realized that unless I had my entry in the perfect spot, it's usually in a pretty good spot. And I generally would rather just leave that one tick on the table for all that the commission does cost me. Leave that tick on the table to hopefully stay in the trade. I find that just makes more sense. It's worked better for me that way. As far as taking partial winners, or closing part of my position. I don't do that. I did that when I did swing trading. I did that when I initially started day trading, and it just doesn't work for me. You know, my trades are a fairly small profile. They're for a fairly short amount of time. I want every win to be a full win because every loss is darn well a full loss. I've kind of honed my method to be able to be positive a certain number of points every day. Now, it's not the same every day, but essentially just be positive most every day. And if I'm positive in points, that's all that I'm concerned about. But if I'm positive in points on my overall position, but I close half of some of my positions when I'm only partially in, then that's going to skew my overall net positive negative points because each point is not worth as much. I want every point to be worth the same as a win or as a loss. You know, that's just the way I base my trading and my method on, is to wind up net positive in points. And if you don't have the same size on your entire position, that can get skewed, and it'll only ever get skewed to the negative because all your losses are always on your full size. If you're swing trading, you're holding the trade for days and you're trying to hang on for a little bit for it to go all the way. Like if it gets to your target, maybe you want to take most of it off or something and then leave a little bit on for a runner. You know, I can see that for sure. And I used to do that, but day trading, I'm in or I'm out. Lars says that Stratocaster guitar takes his attention away. Well, I've got right now a Tele and a Strat and a Mustang bass sitting up against my Ammons pedal steel right here. So I don't know. That's one of the things I talk about, having healthy distractions. If things are slow, every once in a while I just reach over and pick the guitar up and play it for a few minutes, and I find that just keeps my fingers busy instead of clicking the buy and sell buttons. Angie's World. How much capital do you invest in each trade? Do you use leverage, and how much? Do you open your trades using a market buy? How come 2 pips makes you $500? Thanks for letting me know. Good question, Angie's World. This is futures, so I'm not really investing any capital in each trade. It works differently than stocks. However, it sounds like you come from a Forex background, since you're saying the word pip. So it works very much the same as Forex, okay? So with Forex, you have margin, which is very confusing because margin in stocks is different. When you trade futures or Forex, you have margin deposit. Say you have $1,000 and that's held at your broker. Now, when you take a trade, they take a portion of that as like a security. Essentially, for me to take the trades I take at 5 contracts, I believe my margin per contract is $500. You can get it less, but then you pay more commissions, and I'm all about as little commissions as possible. For me to take one trade takes up $2,500 of my capital if I'm taking a 5 contract trade, which I've done most of the time that I've been doing this, at least on YouTube. And the way that works then is I'm in 5 positions. So in the ES, one contract is worth $50 per point. If I make 1 point of $50 on 5 contracts, 50 times 5 is 250. So 1 full point, like 1 full dollar of movement, is $250 of actual money in my account, up or down, depending on whether it's in my favor or the other way. So 2 points is $500 at $250 a point. 10 points is $2,500. That's just the position size I trade. I've traded much more than that. I've traded for 10 contracts, 20. I just find this to be a super comfortable place for me right now, where it's like zero stress and it still winds up to be enough that it's worthwhile and pays the bills and that sort of thing. So hopefully that helps explain that. And thanks for your question. I'm sure lots of people are wondering that same thing. Now, just for reference, if you trade the micro futures, then that $50 per point per contract becomes $5. So it's sort of like moving in Forex from a mini to a micro or a full lot to a mini lot. Mark McNair, do you create your closing music? Yes, Mark. Any little ditties of music in my videos are stuff that I've just hacked around on down here. My outro is actually this funny, it doesn't make any sense. It's just this nonsensical sort of bass line that was going in my head for a long time, and I figured the only way and it doesn't come from anywhere, it's just conjured up in there. And I actually figured the only way to get it out of my head was to record it, and sure enough, it worked. And there's another one in there now. There's always some song going on in my head all the time. Hopefully, It's something that's interesting. It used to be more that way, and now I find it's just more nonsense music that goes on in there. So, yeah, it's just the way it is when you're a musician. Great question from NM. In certain situations, there are more opportunities due to volatility. According to your videos, it seems like for the most part, you're happy with, take one trade and be done with it. You're happy with 10 to 15 points if you can get it, and that's great. If you kept trading, you could make more in a week than you might otherwise make in 6 months. Why don't you do that? Well, first of all, you don't know that for sure, right? Second of all, there was a point in my trading career where I was in a vigorous accumulation stage where I did trade a lot more and I did make a lot more money, yes. But was I happier? Did I have a better work-life balance? Was I less stressed out? No, I was actually kind of miserable because it felt like you were just on the razor's edge all the time. It's right in my trade plan that if I get one good winner of 8 to 10 points plus as my first trade, I quit. That's right in my trade plan. And that's put in there because it's automatically guaranteed points if you've got them. You can't lose them then if you walk away. And at my position size, it's enough, to be worthwhile. And it makes it zero stress. People are always concerned about how much money you can make trading. Well, you can make an awful lot of money trading. You can also lose a lot of it, and you can have an awful lot of seesawing up and down and an awful lot of aggravation, and it can just turn you into a really miserable person if you're stressed out about it all the time. That's the balance that I've struck. Now, I know that if something were to happen in my life, as happened whenever I went through my divorce and I suddenly had no money and I'm starting over again, I know that I can really bear down and I can make a lot of money in a short amount of time if I have to. Most likely I can do it. I have done it before, but I'm confident I can do it. I can start over pretty much whenever with any reasonable amount of money and make a go of it. But that doesn't mean it's enjoyable when it's like that, So I'm at the point of my life and my career where I have a lot of family obligations. I have a lot of stuff and people to take care of, not just financially, but actually just doing things for them and spending time with them. So I try and do what I can to make the best use of my time while I'm working, while still keeping my mental capital as full as possible for my family and for the rest of my responsibilities in life. So it's just a balance that works out well for me. And the other thing is, I'm confident enough that I can pull a handful of points out of the market most days. So as long as I'm confident enough that I can do that, I don't have to get all the points out today or tomorrow. I can get a little bit each day. As you trade more, as you get your confidence up and your consistency up, you don't so much worry about making your month in a day. You just make a days in a day or a couple days in a good day, and then it means you can take a day off. A good comment from Nicholas Belazarus here. Thanks for your comments, Nicholas. I was talking about the video where I said I did everything wrong, got greedy, and lost money. He says, that internal mechanism is always self-regulating. The whole point is to get to the point where you can self-regulate and you can actually heed that rather than just pushing and pushing and then continually blowing yourself up and aggravating yourself. Question from Mike about tick charts. He's asking, would trend lines be accurate on tick charts? Well, I don't draw trend lines on tick charts because I just don't draw trend lines, period. I mean, I have kind of mental trend lines going on in my head. I suppose they could work on tick charts. I don't see why not. The only thing would be that the angles might wind up being a lot steeper because prices condense so much sometimes in tick charts, like the overnights. That's a good question. I should give that a try and see. But I just find the tick charts are the most useful for reading the immediate price action. All I use it for is just finding that exact entry to get into the trade and to get out of the trade. Thomas, I'm not going to attempt your last name though, Thomas F. A lot of people on the internet have said you have to have everything set up before you begin. Have a strategy where you have your stop loss and take profit figured out. In an older video, you said take the money that's on the table, like you did in this one. However, a lot of people, especially when I watch something with psychology, say if you don't have a strategy, you will not be profitable. Do you use a strategy for etc.? Yes, I absolutely have a strategy. No, I have an actual written trade plan. I have a specific strategy. I have a routine in the morning of how I establish direction. I have specific criteria for getting into a trade. I have specific criteria for staying in it or getting out of it. It's all very much there. It's not certainly not willy-nilly, Thomas. But yes, you do absolutely need to have a trade plan. I think that's extremely important. You have to know how you're going to trade, what you're going to trade, when you're going to trade it, and what method you're going to use. That's an absolute must. As far as whether you need to let all your targets go to the full target or your stops go to the full stop, no. In fact, if you do that, I think you'll be, at least if you're a day trader, you're not going to be as successful. You need to be able to take what's there whenever something tells you that you might be wrong. And, also just, if you know that you're wrong, get out for less than you would otherwise letting it go to your full stop. That comes with experience, and there's a number of things that I look at specifically to try and just find out where I am in the trade. Is it still valuable? Is it not? And if it's not, I cut it. NGW. He's been staying away from trading for almost a month now. It feels like it's a lot harder to trade in bear markets, especially with so many macro events. Has this been your experience, or is it just me? Well, if you hold stocks, I mean, bear markets are bad for your retirement accounts, mine included. But no, actually, I would rather trade a bear market than a bull market, and I've made more money on short trades than long trades. All that matters for us is that the market moves. It doesn't have to be up or down specifically. It just has to move, and it has to move in a way that you can, somewhat predict where it's going to go next, right? Movement is all we need. That's one of the great things about futures. You just need the movement. And the fact is, the market generally falls faster than it rises. That's the main reason why I love taking short trades. There was an awful lot of money to be made going short after COVID started, and there still is now, and there always will be. So I don't look at it that way. I think as long as there's movement in the market, that's all that we need. So I don't mind if it's up or down. As long as I can catch some of it, I'm happy. Question from Hairball. Thanks for your comments, Hairball. So I remember a while back you mentioned you spend a lot of time watching the quote board. Is this still the case? And would you mind making a video explaining how you're using it? Yeah, I'll do that. That's a really good idea. I watch the quote board really just for the price and to just have one, because it's such a small little area, where I can see all the indexes together, all the energies, anything that I want. I can just see it right there, and I can see if it's up ticking, or down ticking, or what. And I can see just color coded next to one another how the indexes are doing compared to the other indexes. It's just a really quick place to look for everything in one little small spot. So that's pretty much why I look at the quote board. I also do take an eye at it for the spread, if the spread ever does pop up a little bit. But for the most part, it's just to watch the price. Simple as that. Same thing you do with the charts. Another question from Nicholas. If your first trade only gets you around 4 points, would you take a second? That's what I did yesterday, and I ended in the red. Did it again for 2 losses, and then back to 4 points, debating whether it's worth it. Well, that's a good question, Nicholas. You could make that rule for yourself, right? That if you take a positive trade, your first trade, you're done no matter whether it's 2 points or 10 points or 50 points or 4 or whatever it is. I would never discourage anybody from doing that. That just means you quit one more day positive. So for me, I have I don't really have a goal, but I have I don't even want to call it a soft goal, a point where I'm happy. And that's if I get 10 points, then I'm happy and I'm content to just quit. So if I get 4 points in my first trade, if there's nothing that's, I have coming right up where I have to leave right away or any other mitigating factors to me trading, I'll take another one, provided I find a decent setup and hope to try and get, another, even if I got another 4 and had 8, I'd be happy with that. But yeah, I'll generally take one more if I only get 4 points. That doesn't mean you have to. Whatever works for you. If you can get 4 points, you can average 4 points a day, you've got it made, right? Simple as that. So the whole point is to average positive points per day and end as many days positive as you can. So whatever works for you to get there, you have to experiment with it. If it works, stick with it. Good comment from Bill Hillhorst. I never knew the true meaning of greed until I started trading. It's such a difficult emotion to overcome. Isn't it, eh? I mean, I've never thought of myself as a greedy person. Generally happy with not too much. I'll never take the last cookie on the plate, or I'm happy with, as long as I have enough to be somewhat comfortable. I'm happy. I've always been like that. But when you're in a trade, you want to get that little bit more. That's a whole different story. And the same thing goes when you're on the day and you think, well, I only got 4 points. Just going back to that last question. I'd really like to have more than that. It's really hard to beat that. I still struggle with that. It's not maybe greed in that we would think of it. I want to be greedy and I want to have everything and I want to have things that other people don't have. It's more just, money's money. And whenever you're in a trade and every little tick means more or less money for you, you want to see it go to more, right? So you learn to be happy with what you can get and just to be positive. You lose enough money, you'll be happy with just being positive. And at that point, nowhere to go but forward. Vatho makes a really good comment. He's been experimenting back and forth paper trading. Great point he makes. I find I'm more successful if I just take profits whenever I can get them, even if it's a couple of points, instead of hoping for a bigger move. Yes, that's a big part of what professional traders actually do, what's not taught very often. And it's subjective, of course, but that really is a big part of my success. If I let everything either go to my target or my stop, my win percentage would be nowhere near where it is, and my overall profitability wouldn't be either. Stax asked, what service pack do I use on Sierra? Now, I think I've got this all wrong, guys. I still have to call AMP. I use service pack 11, I believe, so I have to pay for the Denali data feed even though I don't use it. You pay for Denali, but it allows you to use a CQG feed. The Sierra won't let you use any outside feeds for the regular basic service pack, apparently. However, Maurice or Maurice, however you say your name, I know a fellow who calls himself Maurice, even though it's spelled Maurice. Anyway, he's able to choose the Sierra chart /Denali /CQG no data order routing only option with AMP. According to Maurice, you can choose the Sierra chart service package 10 with the Denali data feed, which I believe is what I have. And you pay for that through Sierra chart. And that gets you your data. Okay, so you're getting the Denali feed of your data through Sierra chart. But then you're not paying for data through your broker directly to the exchange that way. So essentially he's getting it for about half price of me. I think I'm paying for data twice because I'm paying through AMP to the exchange for my data, the CQG data, and I'm also paying Sierra chart. So I think the way that he's saying that you can do it is you pay for your data through Sierra chart. You choose like service pack 10, and then you get your data from them. You get the Denali feed, and then through AMP, you choose the order routing only option. So you're using CQG routing, I guess, for your orders, but you're getting the Denali data feed to you, so therefore saving $30 or $40 a month over what I pay. Good job for sorting that out, Maurice. He just contacted the trade desk and asked them what to do, and they told him. So I may well do that too. I haven't got around to it yet, but this sounds like probably the best way to go if you're starting out. Keep your costs down. Now that I've got all you guys and myself confused on the Sierra chart thing, I think somewhere in there's a cohesive answer that I will edit out so that it just made sense. Stack says, I'd like to see you trade one contract. Well, I did that for a little while in that small account challenge last year. What I'm thinking about doing sometime, though, is just like trading one micro for a couple of days or maybe even a week. Just something fun, because I know a lot of you guys are trading micros, and, quite honestly, I haven't ever traded micros because they didn't have them when I started, and by the time they came, I was already, I was trading multiples of the full size, with a mini, of course, but the full size to us compared to the micro. So I might actually try doing that sometime just for fun for a couple of days or a week or something. So that's a cool idea. So I'm back and it's Wednesday now. I went ahead and finished through all the questions and thought everything was hunky-dory, and sure enough, if my receiver on my new Sennheiser wireless system didn't die and I didn't realize it. So the last portion of the video that you're just watching it's got no audio, so I didn't have time to redo it yesterday. So now I'm here on Wednesday. I've got the day off today also. We had a couple of medical appointments this morning. Taking the day to finish this off. I also realized that the audio was really kind of clipping on it, even though I turned it right down on the camera, so sorry about that. I'm just using the old overhead for now. RW asks, I realize on a lot of your trades you put together the 10 points. Is it common for you to scalp 2 to 5 points at a time? Well, not intentionally, no, but does it happen sometimes? Yes, quite a bit. And the reason it does that is because if I see something happening that's making me think that either I'm wrong or the trade's just not keeping the momentum I want it to have, I'm really apt to punch out to take something so that I end with a win on that trade rather than let it go back to a loss. Should you shoot for 2 to 5 points? No, you should shoot for a trade that's going to give you at least 10 points as a decent potential win as far as I'm concerned. My risk reward when I start the trade is always good. It's always multiples. What I wind up taking on the trade can sometimes be less, but I usually like to have it be at least 1-to-1 what I actually take, even if it doesn't turn out to be a full winner. So that's the way I look at it, because you can't go too far the other way and wind up risking 5 points all the time and taking 2-point wins all the time. Well, if you do that all the time, you're going to have a super high win percentage to actually make money, right? So I generally start off with something like between a 10 and a 20-point target and maybe a 5-point stop loss. And then if it loses steam at 5 points, or it goes up to like 8.5 and comes back to 5 or so, and there's something that makes me think maybe it's not going to continue, then I'll just punch out and take the 5, because it's still 5 points is better than no points. Chromatic Tempest. I see you scalp futures on the regular, but surely you tried swing trading or holding for longer periods. How much effort went into that, and what ultimately made you decide against it? Is patience a part of it? Good question. I've just kind of found what kind of trading works well for me, and number one about that is to be flat at the end of the day. I used to swing trade Forex first, and I have swung trade futures also. I rarely do that. I haven't done that in a while. But I would, swing trade one contract to the futures. I don't like it. I just don't like having a position on overnight. Some people that's great, but for me, I just hated, like, you wake up in the morning and you check, or you're checking your chart all the time, like throughout the day or the evening, whatever. You say, oh, I'm up now, or I'm down now, or I was up, $3,000 and now I'm only up $500, and I don't like it. It doesn't suit me well because I'm always thinking about it. And then, any crazy things that can happen. The world is nuts right now. Anything can make the market drop 100 points at any given time. I was just looking at the chart this morning for the CPI. It went down 100 points in a minute. 100 points in a minute, guys. That kind of thing can happen. If you got a swing trade on, there goes your stop loss. Probably way past it, right? So it's just not for me. I like to sit down and work, trade a market for a set amount of time per day, set amount of maximum trades per day, just get myself into that little pigeonhole that works for me, sit down and trade, and then get up and be done and just be out of the market. As far as leaving it like a longer trade profile, like say a trade that you expect will play out in an hour or two and maybe has a 15-point stop loss and you're going for 30 points or something like that, that just takes too long. I don't like it. When I sit down, I'm really tightly focused on the chart. It just suits me better to have that small amount of highly focused time and then the larger amount of completely out of the market time. Because anytime you're in the market, you're exposed to risk. I don't even care if you're in a trade and you've got your stop loss at break even, you're still exposed to risk. Something crazy can happen. The market can totally go against you and you'll get slipped and you'll lose money. So the less time in the market, the better for me. So essentially the least amount of time I can spend with a position on and be profitable, that's what I'm shooting for. Now, a lot of people don't like day trading, and they say day trading is the riskiest kind of trading. But for me, it's not, because my core competency in this is I really don't know where the market's going to be tomorrow. I certainly don't know where it's going to be next month, but I got a pretty good idea where it's going to be in 5 minutes, right? So that's just what I've gravitated towards, and that's what I harness for my own trading. Donkey Face, another fantastic name. I love the avatar too. Anyway, I was talking about my trade, I guess it was on Monday, the last day I traded. I put a video up on Monday, and you said, yeah, the first loser didn't have to be a loser because I was 8 points up. I know, I was looking at that afterwards when I was putting the video together, and I'm like, I was 8 points in, and I let that hit my stop. Like, that's generally something I don't do. I don't know what happened, but, nobody's perfect, including me, by far. So, anyway, he says, love to see some of the other stuff, the quote board and stuff. It would be a cool video to look at that, at the other things I look at, and I will be doing that for sure. So thanks very much for your comments as always. What I'm doing for you guys, where I'm answering your questions, I'm just hearting it and not replying to it. So if you see a comment that's hearted, doesn't have an answer to it, the answer is probably in a Q&A video. SGL makes a good observation. Using simulators to trade, and then we move to the point of just trading with one share. He said it's like a penny ante game. If you're playing cards, I don't really play cards, but I know what that means to ante in. I have played poker a couple times when I was younger. So once he put that one share on, totally different. And that is so true. And that's why I tell people, first of all, before you ever trade live, make sure that you can make money trading in demo, in simulation. Because if you can't make money in sim, you're not going to make money live. But having said that, once you make money in sim, start live with the absolute minimum amount, no matter how much money you have, because it's like learning it all over again. You know how to do it, but you have to train your body and your mind and just your whole nervous system to it. It's a completely different game. Swanee gives an example about he's not sure what kind of trader he wants to be, whether a scalper risking 4 to 5 for 8 to 12. I don't really consider that to be so much of a scalper. Like, I know people that try and trade for 1 point each way. To me, that's scalping. Now, what I do is, I wouldn't call myself a scalper, really. I mean, some trades I take are really small, but I consider scalping to be like 1-2 points, just a tiny little bit, and trading all day, one after the other after the other. And of course, the problem with that is your commissions really do add up when you're only trading for a point or two. But he's essentially going over like, well, I set up my trade profile so it's good, but then the price action turns to garbage, so I get out early, and then I'm not getting the proper risk reward. That's fine. As long as the proper risk reward is there at the start, you're okay. You don't want to plan a trade where you're risking 5 to get 5. But if your trade where you're risking 5 to get 15, something goes south, and you can tell the price is turning around, coming right back for your stop, then just get out so you take something on it. That's a trade that that's essentially a loss that's turned into a small winner. You have to think of it that way. White Stork. Nice to hear from you, White Stork. I don't know if I answered this question in the last video or not. If I didn't, I'm sorry, because it's a month old, but I hope all's going well for you in Poland. We're all thinking of you. I'd like to ask you something. Paper traded after a break, took a few days off after that to handle something. And then when you got back in, he took some really stupid trades, dug a nice hole he had to get out of later. Says, I was clearly itching to get back into trading so much, I didn't give myself time to get in tune with the market. I've had quite a few breaks in the last few weeks. How do I manage to get back on track without first having a losing streak? Really good question. Lately, I've had a lot of breaks. I haven't been able to trade nearly as much as I'd like to. There's just been a lot of stuff going on by cleaning 30 years of stuff out of my mother's house and dealing with everybody's appointments and getting her new house all renovated for her to move in. And I'm all she's got. My dad passed 20 years ago and I'm an only child. And trying to hire people around here to do stuff like that is extremely difficult. In a perfect world, I'd come down and trade Monday to Thursday, take Friday off, maybe trade Monday to Friday, but I'd sort of like that groove of Monday to Thursday and take the Friday off, really. But it just isn't happening for me, and I don't think I'm going to get to trade 4 to 5 days a week anytime soon, but certainly I'd like to be able to trade at least 3 days a week so I don't have too long of a gap in between days I'm in the market. The way that I have kind of adapted to deal with that is, sometimes I come back super trigger happy, and you've seen that in the videos, but as a rule, there's enough times going back years where that same thing's happened to me and I've come back, and I've had those trigger happy days where I've lost like $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, right? Or something like that, or worse. So I remember that. That's really the biggest thing that does it. I just remember how much it sucks to be in a hole. So I do everything I can to avoid getting into a hole, to just spend some time looking at the chart. But actually, like, take a while and look back over the last week or so that you haven't traded, or however many days it is. Look at it in all different time frames. Go through, how I do my levels and stuff. Go out and map out your support and resistance so it's there. And just spend some time with your eyes on it. Look at it on different time frames. Scroll back and forth. And just really try and familiarize yourself with the price, because it's really tempting to sit, and you'll see me, sometimes I almost just do this anyway, but you just sit down and you see something that looks like a trade, and you want to go bang and click it. But then if you were to look to the left, you would say, oh, maybe I shouldn't do that because there's this level sitting right here. If you don't look far enough left, and you don't take a long enough time to look to the left and really get familiarized with what's happened in the market since you're in it and where it is right now, you're asking for trouble. So that's the best thing I'd say, White Stork, is just don't rush. Take lots of time to look at what happened since you traded last. Write down your support and resistance levels, or put lines on the chart. Remember what it felt like to get into that hole and however long it took you to get out of it. just remind yourself that you don't want to have to do that again. Well, guys, I think that's probably it for now. Thank you so much for all your questions and your comments. Please do keep them coming. I really enjoy this. If I didn't get to you this time, just ask it again, please, and I'll try and get to it next time. Grab my cheat sheet, my newsletter, daytradernextdoor.com. Have a fantastic day. I'll see you guys real soon. I'm hoping to trade the morning tomorrow.